May I have your attention, please?
It's Markers and Monsters Drawlloween 2017.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Markers and Monsters, where we're trucking along with day 3 of Drawlloween. Today's theme, Tombsday. I am a huge fan of old cemeteries, especially with crumbling tombstones and lots of interesting ooky spooky headstones and stuff like that. So this was a great one for me. I was looking forward to it since the calendar was announced. As you can see, I'm just sketching in some crumbly old tombstones here. If they look familiar, I just did a Google image search for old tombstones for inspiration. Normally I use my own reference, but I didn't feel like digging out my external hard drive where the photos are stored and hooking it up, all that. Try to keep the creation of each of these little pieces of art relatively quick. So there you go. I'm a huge fan of old cemeteries. I love going to them. There's a lot near my house that just these small things with like 30, 40 headstones from some old, long forgotten community, or maybe a church was there at one point and that was its cemetery, but it's long since gone. So kind of neat when you're driving by the road just to see them sticking out there, and you can go and look at the cool headstones and stuff like that. Now, I decided to do this pink in pure ink with ink washes, so that's why there's no markerin to speak of today. Grim Reaper's there right in the middle. Is he a statue, part of the cemetery, or is it the genuine article? You be the judge. You're the viewer. So once I got into the inking process, I realized, hey, I just did this on Bristol board because that's what I normally do all my marker drawings on. I just happened to grab it. Force a habit. Not realizing that Bristol isn't the best material to put ink washes onto. But hey, there you go. The paper warped a little bit, but not too terribly much. I don't think you guys are really going to notice watching the video or looking at the scan. But in real life, there's a little bit of warping, which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world or anything. I think it'll look good in a frame still, and it'll probably flatten out over some time. But that's what happens when you introduce water into paper. Now let's talk about cemeteries in movies. I love cemetery scenes in movies. I especially love when the designers do a cemetery kind of like the one I'm drawing, with these old, ancient, crumbling tombstones and a lot of interest, and they're like falling over each other and overlapping. I don't know. I find that so appealing. Get yourself a dollar store fog machine and just crank that sucker up to max and just let the fog swirl around the tombstones. I'm in hog heaven there. Love it. Some of my favorites from various movies. Let's go through them, guys. First off is, I'll say honorable mention because it's not actually a movie in and of itself. You probably know what it is and you probably love it. It's that cemetery from Michael Jackson's Thriller video. It's perfect. If you guys have not seen the Thriller video, man, I used to watch that sucker like every Halloween. They used to have a making of special they'd put on too. But that cemetery is beautiful. Crumbly tombstones falling over each other. The funk of 40,000 years rising from the tombs, and so on and so forth. But gorgeous. And then my list in no particular order here. Got to give a shout out to Cemetery Man, an Italian film, so its actual name is Dellamorte, Dellamore, from 1994. This is a cool kind of zombie black comedy, just weird movie about the caretaker of a cemetery where every night the freshly dead rise up and he's got to basically cut their heads off to prevent them from rising. Unfortunately, nobody in the town knows this, so they don't like pre-cut the heads off for him when someone dies. So he's got to go in and chop their heads off himself. Cool flick. It's really awesome. Check it out. Next up on my list here is Army of Darkness from 1992. Bruce Campbell, you guys know this movie. I'm sure if there's anyone watching my show that hasn't seen Army of Darkness, I'd be very surprised. But the cemetery that he goes in, that another gorgeous looking cemetery. Sam Raimi really know what the heck he was doing when he did that scene. We got Phantasm from 1979. Now this cemetery is a lot less crumbly than the ones I really like, but it's still a cool cemetery with a great looking house, funeral home, mausoleum thing in there. So good stuff, guys. Next up, we've got Return of the Living Dead from 1985. The punk teens go into a cemetery, which I wish was in my hometown because I'd walk through it every day. And unfortunately, they choose the night to party in the cemetery that the dead rise. Oh, good stuff and a great cemetery scene. We've got the Lucio Fulci flick, another Italian movie, House by the Cemetery from 1981, which is a gorgeous old house that is like in the middle of a freaking cemetery. Guys, I want to live there. If I ever start a Patreon, that's going to be the end goal, is for me to move into a house in a cemetery, and I will broadcast my stuff from there. So just keep that in mind. House by the Cemetery, 1981. It's a cool zombie movie. It's a Fulci flick, so you know it's going to get graphic and gross. So check it out. We've got a little bit of honorable mentions here too. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman in 43 opens with an amazing cemetery scene. It's not really crumbly per se, but it's got that great old universal horror atmosphere of like the full moon and the spooky fog and stuff like that. And finally, Night of the Living Dead. What can I say, guys? The cemetery is like 10 minutes from my house, even though it's a beautiful, well-kept cemetery. And it's not crumbling at all. I mean, it's part of the modern zombie movie. It's a tradition. How could I not include it? I love that place. So anyway, that's my list here. Putting in some birds to cover up, just to make the sky look good and cover up a little bit of smudges that got up in the sky there because I waited too long to erase, or didn't wait long enough. Let's take a look at the scan and all the cool details. It's a little harder to see from far away, so I thought I'd zoom it in real nice for you guys. You could take a peek. This was a fun one to do. Great technique using the water washes and the ink. It's almost like painting with watercolors, but a little bit different. And it gives that cool, spooky, monochromatic look, which I like so much. That's it for today, guys. We're going to see you tomorrow. We'll be having fun. And be sure to tune in Thursday at 3 o'clock, where I'll be doing the Thursdays markers and Drawlloween drawing live on the live stream. So tune in for that. It'll be a blast. Till then, we'll see you guys tomorrow.